Huh? A magic eye. GM made a magic eye. What, is it like for spying or... Hey, Sparty, GM is dabbling in the dark arts. What? Oh, never mind. Okay, well, so the eye is a door. The eye is a door. Does the door it opens automatically when you approach it. That seems kind of magic to me. Huh? Yeah, technology on the march. Yeah, I guess so. Look, I gotta go. Yeah. Bye.
Headline of the month. The U.S. president saves Germany. Or does he?
I'm Indy Nidell.
I'm Spartacus Olson.
And this is The Rise of Hitler. Welcome back to the Weimar Wire, covering all of June's jolting jolts, jittery judgments, and jarring junctures.
There are no other headlines this month. This one deserves our full attention. But first, let's quickly recap last month.
In May, we saw former Crown Prince Wilhelm and the former King of Saxony attending a massive Stahlhelm rally in Breslau, raising eyebrows about a potential monarchist resurgence.
Meanwhile, Germany and Austria's ambitious customs union ran headfirst into fierce French opposition, just as Austria's largest bank, Kreditanstalt, teetered on collapse, causing panic and even a bank run. Germany wasn't far behind, with major firms like Karstadt and Nordwolle struggling and banks starting to wobble.
Facing economic chaos and mounting international pressure, Chancellor Brüning considered desperate measures, like asking for a moratorium on reparations payments as Germany searched for a way out.
So that was May. Now let's move on to June. And where's Hitler? What's Adolf up to this month?
Yeah.
Well, a bunch. As the month begins, the Nazis hold massive rallies in Chemnitz. It's their Gauparteitag, a regional party convention.
On Hitler Day, the man himself addresses 15,000 admirers.
We have come together here to raise a solemn protest against the attempt at eternal enslavement, against the cowardice and servility that others today praise as political ideals.
But that's not all. In another speech, he comments on the current economic situation in the Reich.
The National Socialists, too, are convinced that no reconstruction is possible without sacrifice. What they reproach the government for is not that it demands sacrifices, but that it fails to use those sacrifices to rebuild German freedom. Instead, each new sacrifice becomes a new chain. In Germany, it is not the finances that have fallen to disorder. It is the people.
Hitler also writes a letter to Il Duce, the fascist leader of Italy. Benito Mussolini is his name, after Mussolini sent him a signed portrait.
The sympathy expressed by Your Excellency for the National Socialist movement mirrors precisely the profound admiration I've held for years for the fascism created by Your Excellency. Allow me, therefore, to combine my thanks with respectful wishes for Your Excellency's personal well-being, as well as for the brilliantly led fascist Italy. I remain with assurances of my highest regard and sincere admiration. Your Excellency's devoted Adolf Hitler.
Is it just me? Or does Hitler seem to be, sucking up here a little bit?
A bit.
A bit.
If this letter had lips, they'd be planted on Mussolini's boots.
I think we should all picture that for just a moment. Okay, enough of Hitler. Let's move on to the headline of the month. U.S. President Herbert Hoover saves Germany.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. On the 5th of June, German Chancellor Brüning arrives in Great Britain. He's there to meet with British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald. Here's what the visit is about, explained by Brüning himself.
Our aim is to address many difficulties emerging across the world, difficulties that pose serious dangers to industry, agriculture, and the working classes. The political crisis in Germany is acute. Radicalism is on the rise. The current cabinet is convinced that these problems can only be solved through the open and honest cooperation of all the world's nations.
But that's not all. For the 5th, on the same day, a new emergency decree is signed by German President von Hindenburg. Wielding his sizable constitutional powers, it reads, "For safeguarding finances and the economy."
Germany is not doing well. 4.5 million unemployed, wages plummeting, families pushed to their limits, and now this emergency decree pulls Germany into stricter austerity. Public sector salaries and pensions face sharp cuts, while taxes are raised across the board. Tax returns are suspended, and finally, an additional crisis tax is introduced, taken directly from wages.
Welfare and unemployment benefits also take a severe hit, making eligibility much stricter.
And just one day later, on the 6th, an announcement is made by the German government. It is partly an explanation or justification for the strict measures to be implemented, but also something else.
The reasonable will understand that such measures cannot be taken without hardship affecting all segments of the population. The limit of the sacrifices we can impose upon our people has been reached. The assumptions upon which the new reparations plan was based have proven mistaken given recent global developments. The severely threatened economical and financial situation of the Reich urgently necessitates relieving Germany from these unbearable reparations obligations. Two things. One, Germany, on the back of the most severe cuts implemented yet, openly more or less demands a stop to the reparations payments owed the victors of the Great War, mainly France, Great Britain, Italy, and Belgium.
That is a big thing to ask, especially since the new reparations scheme, the Young Plan, is barely a year old and already relieved Germany of considerable debt.
Two, there are many who are not reasonable. The communists immediately protest.
The hunger emergency decree has been announced. Another billion-mark burden placed on the people by Bruning's government. The capitalists pay nothing, while the poor pay everything. This decree must fall if the people are to survive.
And they protest literally as well as riots rock the Reich.
On Sunday afternoon, serious communist riots broke out. When officers tried to disperse the march, they were first pelted with stones, and then once they drew their batons, they came under fire as well. A full-on gunfight erupted. The demonstrators fired around 30 to 50 shots. This is one of many such instances across Germany. But it's not just the communists. The Nazis also refuse to see reason.
Let's say it up front. This emergency decrees a sickly child, one that feels death breathing down its neck and entered the world already burdened by a heavy hereditary affliction. It is only because of the vile lie of Germany's sole guilt for the World War that our fellow citizens now bleed white, paying tax upon tax.
It is worth pointing out here that contrary to the communists, the Nazis do stick to their oath of legality and they use words as their form of protest. In the center and the more liberal press, understanding and necessity are the dominating narratives. Whether you argue for or against the new measure, one thing is clear. Germany, financially, economically, and socially, teeters on the brink of total collapse.
The Austrian banking crisis that we covered last month now greets a new sibling as the German banking system transitions from being on the verge of crisis to actual crisis this month. On the 13th, the Reichsbank Central Committee meets to frantically discuss a course of action.
It's now apparent that foreign countries, especially America, which previously had nearly unlimited trust in Germany, have increasingly lost faith. Since June 1st, the Reichsbank has lost at least 750 million marks. The Reichsbank is legally obligated to maintain at least 40% gold and foreign currency coverage. Thus, the Reichsbank will have no choice but to impose credit restrictions. That is, limit the amount of credit it has been providing to the banks.
Yep. Facing bank runs and massive foreign currency withdrawals that put immense pressure on the German mark, the Reichsbank may soon have no choice but to drastically restrict credit.
Yeah.
While credit restrictions could prevent immediate currency collapse, they'd likely strangle an economy already gasping for air, further heightened by disastrous news rolling in from major German companies like Nordwolle. The Reichsbank hasn't yet committed to such drastic measures, but discussions are ongoing, and this final step seems increasingly inevitable.
And it gets worse. As you may remember from previous episodes, there is a way to overturn a presidential decree. All you need is a simple majority vote in the Reichstag, the parliament. However, as you may also remember, the Reichstag is not scheduled to convene until October.
Both the Nazis and the communists launched attempts to get it back into session, to then overturn the austerity measures So the Council of Elders, a parliamentary committee responsible for organizing and scheduling Reichstag business, meets to deliberate.
And as it turns out, everything hinges on the Social Democrats, the SPD, who are currently in the opposition. They hold the power to sway the vote either way.
The government makes it crystal clear that it does not want the Reichstag to meet, as explained by Dr. Punda, the State Secretary of the Reichschancellery. The essential condition for the government to continue its stabilization work undisturbed is that the Reichstag does not convene prematurely. Germany is walking a narrow ridge, threatened by an abyss on either side. The Reichstag meeting prematurely overturning the emergency decree could send the entire nation tumbling down.
The Social Democrats face a dilemma. If they overturn the decree, a further exacerbation of the crisis, including a surge of popularity for the Nazis and the communists, would likely follow. However, if they just play along, their base, which is mostly comprised of workers, is not likely to forgive them either. Before they can reach a decision, though, the government escalates the situation further, believing that austerity measures are the only way to keep the country from unraveling. So,
this morning, the Reich cabinet unanimously decided to respond to the convening of the Reichstag by immediately resigning as a whole.
This is something the SPD wants to avoid at all costs. New elections could lead to a Nazi minister, or worse, a Nazi chancellor. Chancellor Brüning follows the same rationale and offers a compromise. Agree for now, and you and I, together with the trade unions, will negotiate necessary changes to the decrees after the fact. On the 16th, the SPD agrees. They comment. And so Germany's tense domestic and foreign situation has eased at the very last moment. Now it's up to the Brüning government to make good on its word, without delay.
Crisis averted for now. Or has it? In the meantime, the Reichsbank has lost another $250 million marks in foreign exchange reserves, assets held in foreign currencies essential for international payments and economic stability. The now confirmed austerity measures do little to calm the situation.
Yesterday and the day before, the Reichsbank had to secure another $130 million in foreign exchange. That's how intense the wave of foreign loan cancellations remained during these days. Since June the 1st, the Reichsbank has lost around 1 billion marks in foreign exchange.
But there is hope. Chancellor Brüning's meeting with British Prime Minister MacDonald from the 5th to the 10th of this month planted a seed, and now it's beginning to sprout. The British Prime Minister has started discussions with the US. Here is a telegram from the US Embassy in London to Henry Stimson, the Secretary of State, from the 15th.
Hey, wait. How come we have access to the top secret communications of a foreign government?
Well, we have our sources, which we naturally need.
Oh, yes, we must protect them.
Yeah. But this is why we're the best news outlet in Germany.
Yeah.
Maybe even the world.
Serious sources.
Anyways, here's the telegram.
The situation has become steadily worse and is now so serious the present crisis may overwhelm Germany and Austria with grave repercussions in Europe unless immediate steps are taken. Yesterday, the Bank of England telephoned to the Federal Reserve that the German situation was so acute that a week's delay before making relief measures effective was too long, and that it was only a matter of days for Austria. No adequate measures of assistance are possible by the British government, and that upon France and the United States rests the initiation of relief.
Now, over the following days, the situation further deteriorates. Here's what the president of the German Central Bank has to say in a cabinet meeting. On Friday, June 19th, an unexpected outflow of another 70 million in foreign exchange became necessary. But since no form of assistance could be secured from abroad, the Reichsbank had no choice on Saturday, June 20th, but to implement emergency measures. It had to impose a first sharp credit restriction. Then on the 20th, finally, good news. U.S. President Hoover makes a statement to the press that day.
The American government proposes the postponement during 1 year of all payments on intergovernmental debt, reparations, and relief debts to give the forthcoming year to the economic recovery of the world. I do not approve in any remote sense of the cancellation of the debts to us. Reparations is necessarily wholly a European problem with which we have no relation.
And the whole of Germany breathes a sigh of relief. Here again, the Reichsbank president. Since Monday afternoon, the demand for foreign exchange has slowly but steadily declined, and I believe I can now confidently hope that no further outflow will be necessary today, Tuesday.
But it's not just the bankers. Soon, German newspapers are filled with hopeful headlines. Here is the conservative Deutsche Reichszeitung. A move of global political significance by American President Hoover. At last, help is coming. At last, the voice of reason speaks. At last, a breath of relief under an unbearable burden. And what's crucial, the push to revise the entire war debt problem is coming from the world's greatest and most powerful creditor, not from impoverished debtor Germany. Vorwärts, the Social Democratic paper, echoes the sentiment and adds,
It was also approved by Ambassador Dawes and Owen D. Young. This means that the namesakes of both reparation schemes, the earlier Dawes Plan and the current Young Plan, agree that, in the current situation, the payments need to be paused.
Of course, not everyone is so happy with these developments. Do you have any idea who that could be, Spartacus?
Who could benefit most if the situation spirals out of control? The Nazis and the communists?
Nazis and the communists. You are exactly correct. Number one righto on the money, in other words that mean correct. Here's what the Nazis have to say.
There is no reason for euphoria. Hoover's move is simply the recognition that a people of Germany's political and economic importance cannot be allowed to sink silently into the depths of its time of distress. As for Mr. Hoover, he acted purely out of well-understood self-interest.
While Hoover may have acted more from self-interest than altruism, his proposal, now known as the Hoover moratorium, is already helping stabilize Germany politically, even before its implementation, and that is precisely why the Nazis talk it down. Don't believe me? Well, maybe you'll believe Nazi Party MP and propagandist-in-chief Joseph Goebbels. Here's his diary entry from the 24th of June, 2 days after the moratorium is announced in the German press.
Okay, Amit, now I have to ask.
Yes.
How do we have Goebbels' diary from, last week? Could it be that we have that magic eye?
GM has the only magic eye. The only one I tell you. Although, it does. GM! Here is the diary entry, and their magic eye does open doors.
The Hoover offer is giving us a real headache. It's going to push back our victory by about 4 months. It's nauseating. The German Philistines are just too stupid. Uncharacteristically, what nauseates Goebbels does the same for the communists.
The bitter wormwood of hopelessness and doubt mixes into the wine of hope and self-deception. Faith in miracles has been lost, so all the more eagerly efforts are made to deceive the exhausted public with a mirage of escape from misery, with illusions of renewed prospects for ascent.
Undeterred by the opposition from the far left and right, on the 23rd, Brüning addresses the German people in a speech over the radio. In it, he summarizes the situation and thanks the American people.
Das deutsche Volk und die deutsche Regierung haben mit herzlicher Dankbarkeit die Vorschläge des Präsidenten Hoover angenommen. Eine neue Hoffnung für Europa und Deutschland sehen wir aus diesem Vorschlage erwachsen. Er bringt Deutschland eine Hilfe in einem entscheidenden Augenblick seiner Geschichte.
But we haven't reached dry land yet. While the stormy seas have calmed and the winds subsided, the USS Moratorium still needs to navigate one last perilous reef before it reaches port. France.
That was poetic, Sparty. That was great, the USS Moratorium. Okay, earlier this month on the 9th, French Foreign Minister Aristide Briand already clearly stated that no revision of the Young Plan will be permitted on his watch. Telegrams shoot back and forth from Washington to Paris. On the 22nd, Walter Edge, American ambassador to Paris, cables Washington.
The French government agrees to the principles of according a delay in debt payments, but would in all probability make a reservation on the subject of unconditional reparations payments. Barthelot, the general of the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, indicated that for psychological reasons, France did not feel that she could give up these payments, which would meet the tremendous opposition in the French parliament. There might be some arrangement for balancing them so that although France would not get the benefit of them, she would nevertheless receive the payments.
So what are these unconditional payments? Okay, there are two kinds of German reparations payments. 2/3 are conditional payments, whose size depends on Germany's economic performance, while the rest is, well, actually unconditional, and to be paid whatever the circumstance.
And it is this third France does not want to pause, or at least doesn't want it to seem that way.
Right.
Speaking frankly, the mood in France is not the best. They feel like they have been deliberately isolated. First, the negotiations between Germany and the UK, then the negotiations between the UK and the US. But France, the largest recipient of German reparations, is not involved at all.
A reaction from Germany regarding the French concerns follows promptly. Here are the personal reactions of Julius Curtius, German foreign minister. The value of the president's plan would be seriously impaired by the French proposal. The original plan was recognized by the German people as a boon and was gratefully accepted as such. I feel that we Germans ought not to look a gift horse in the mouth. Nonetheless, I would not like to see this gift diminished in such a way.
As this month ends, we still do not have a concrete proposal on our hands, with a compromise still being worked out by the US and France. Here are the latest developments.
At this morning's session, 3 questions were under discussion. 1. The period of time over which the payments shall be funded. 2. What disposition should be made of the payments on the unconditional annuities which are turned over from Germany to France. 3. Whether France might apply the payments to the building up of the Young Plan Guarantee Fund if Germany should declare a moratorium after July the 1st, 1932.
Solutions to 2 of these problems have already been discussed at the same meeting. The duration of repayments is set at 25 years, beginning after the Hoover moratorium ends on July 1st, 1932. Additionally, Germany's unconditional payments will be loaned to it by France for 1 year to be repaid over the same 25-year period.
As for question number 3, it boils down to this. Normally, Germany pays reparations into a fund, and France and the UK use much of that money to repay war loans to the US. Under the Young Plan, if Germany temporarily wasn't able to pay, France and the UK would cover Germany's payments themselves, expecting reimbursement later on. That way, the US still gets its loan repayments, even if Germany were to actually default.
But now France is saying, if we give Germany this break and they still can't pay after 1 year, we won't cover for them anymore. And that the US doesn't like, because it means they also would have to wait indefinitely for their loan repayments, however long Germany remains broke. This big issue, for the moment, remains unresolved.
Will there be a moratorium? Either way, for the moment, just the thought of one is sort of the only thing holding Germany together.
Indy?
Yeah.
We're running way over time. We've already cut into the time slot of Schnitzel or Schmatz, your weekly slice of German cuisine.
It's my favorite show. Oh, God. I'm sorry, guys.
Anyway.
We'll be out in a minute. We'll be out in a minute.
Yeah. We really need to push this along. Speed round, Global Wire.
Disaster beneath the waves. A tragic collision causes HMS Poseidon submarine to sink off of China, claiming over 20 lives.
Al Capone's luck runs out. The mobster is indicted for tax evasion on June 5th, and his Miami mansion is seized the next day.
Mussolini escalates his showdown with the Vatican. He bans Catholic youth organizations on June 1st and declares nothing outside the state in a provocative interview on June 18th.
Next, onto the Weimar Wire political indicator brought to you by Time Ghosts.
With the moratorium looking likely, the government parties around Bruning, as well as the SPD for playing along, are actually trending upwards. And while the Nazis and communists aren't down, their stellar upward trajectory of recent months flattens out a bit in the face of President Hoover's proposal.
And that leaves us with the questions. Will France and the US agree on a concrete plan?
Will German and Austrian banks recover as a result?
What does this mean for the Austro-German Customs Union project?
And is 1 year enough time? Will the German economy have recovered by then?
To get answers to all of these questions and more questions besides, stay with us at the Weimar Wire as we cover the events unfolding in and around Germany month by month.
It is you, the Time Ghost Army, that allows us to explore important periods of the past to help us better navigate the problems of today and tomorrow. To become a member of the Time Ghost Army, head to timeghost.tv or patreon.com and join us. Excelsior! Yeah, we'll be done in like 10 minutes, guys. I'm really sorry. But you can have 10 minutes of our stuff next week. Okay. We'll be out soon.
Yeah.
We'll be out soon.
We got it. We're going.